everything I always wanted in life. The relationships with my family were there. The friendships were there. I was there for others. And this is where I really dove in deeper to myself, like spiritually. And a big part of my life right now is routine, right? Like habits. And there's not a morning that goes by anymore that I don't wake up. I start every morning off the same. I get off on my mat. I do a 10-minute meditation. It's a lot of times it's the same one. It's I like guided meditation. I do a prayer right after that. I open up a journal that I write a list of gratitude, and I usually sign it like it's a love letter to God, to who I believe in, God. And I read off a list of affirmations. And then I open a book and I read something positive to be able to learn something new each and every morning.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Lyfe Choyces podcast.
Yeah!
Jeffrey, welcome to the Lyfe Choyces podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
I'm pretty stoked today. It's been a very long time since we've spoken in person. We just figured that out, 2017-ish.
Yes.
And we're in 2024.
Where I kind of met you, I was in a pretty dark place in my life, and that was like the beginning of a new time frame for me that I was starting to see the light.
Okay, and how old were you at this point?
So when I first started there, when I met you, I was 2014. So that was 10 years ago. So I was 32 years old. I was starting to look forward to find what my life was about. Like, who am I? And I ended up getting that job at One City Plaza, working in the property management field. And at that point, the money there was not too conducive of being able to travel the way I wanted to. But I got to meet a lot of really good connections in my life and build like a network around me of people that had those experiences. After about 5 years from there, the job kind of went disarray because I was starting to travel more. I got friendly with some people in the building, yourself being one, that was into that. And I got such an excitement. I was just overspending and taking trips that I really wasn't able to, but I was so excited about doing it for the first time. I was, traveling in the country and taking my trips outside of the country. So I fell in love with it like the very first time. And I finally clicked in my head, like, I know what my grandparents were talking about now, right? And this started off a path that I just wasn't able to stop. So I left there after 5 years approximately. I think it was 2019, approximately maybe June-ish timeframe. And I remember I went on a little bit of a lunch break. And before I left, the manager there at that time said, listen, if you max out all your vacation time this year, you're going to have to find another job. And I said, well, what is the problem with taking off the days I have for PTO or vacation? That's what they're there for. No, it's not going to be allowed. So I came back and I was a little brash with what I said. I said, listen, there's no reason to have to let me go. I said, I'm just going to take off. And I took off for a full year of my life and I did nothing but travel, right?
That's fucking amazing.
Yes.
Very few people would take that initiative and just throw caution into the wind and say, all right, fuck it, I'm out then.
Exactly. And I kind of said a little prayer about it. I didn't know if I was making the right decision, but this is like a part of my life where my faith started to kind of come back in big time. With the time off, it ended up being a full year without any employment. And I started getting back into the drinking scene. And at that point, I was 5 years away from everything. So it was about 5 years of complete sobriety from everything. Alcohol is my main thing. And at first, it's fun. And then she started seeing my changes, which I didn't see in myself. And it kind of fell apart very, very quickly from there, right? But I kept traveling. After I stayed there for a few months, I went to Europe for a while. Traveled all throughout Europe to a bunch of different countries. And I just kind of kept escalating with the drinking. But at that point, it was somewhat manageable still. I came back and I was like, wow, I kind of blew through everything I had. It's time to start, finding a job. And I kind of put that on the back burner, but it was in the front part of my head. Like, need employment, need money to keep traveling, keep eating the way I like to eat. But what is the next plan? Through no doing on my own, I ended up getting sober again. The guy that I had guiding me through this time of sobriety was kind of a hard ass, kind of like my father was. And I don't have many experience of people in my life kind of like that. So it was kind of like,
was needed.
Need 100%, 100% need it. I wasn't allowed for his from his words to travel. He's like, you're going to put this first. You're going to get back on your feet, and you're going to get a job. Like, how long are you going to go without a job? I was invited by this man to a men's retreat, which I wasn't too enthused about, but I accepted it. And at that time, the guy that I was sharing the room with at this men's retreat, it was locally in Palm Beach County. He's like, listen, he's like, I'm friends with your sponsor. I do sales. I got an interview for you Monday. Don't be late because I'll look bad. I was like, no. I tried everything I could to. He's like, no, I don't give a shit what comes out of your mouth. He's like,
you're going to this interview.
There. And I did.
Yeah.
I usually, the one thing about me is like when I say I'm going to be somewhere or do something, I keep my word. And I'm usually always on time unless there's something that comes up. And I showed up to this and the guy's like, do you have any sales experience? And I said, no. And he said, well, we really need a certain amount of time, but I like your personality. We're going to give you a chance. And I did very, very good. This is when COVID kind of started. So their business got shut down for a small amount of time. And I just wasn't able to wait that long. I was like, I need some kind of money so I could plan my next trip type of mentality, right? The job that I originally left, the owner there, he literally called me every day for about 4 months. He's like, I got an opportunity. It's all guys about your age. You can make double, if not more than that at this place. And it's 2 minutes away from your house and they're all sober. And I said no to him every day for 4 days. There was a day I came into this office and I was working and all of a sudden it smelled like marijuana. And not that that's like something that bothers me, but it's in an enclosed environment. I was starting to feel like a little bit of like a
secondhand.
Secondhand. Yeah. So I said, what the hell's going on? And the manager came out and he said, listen, he's like, why don't you go outside for a walk? I'm really sorry. And I came back like a half an hour later and I said, well, what's going on? You guys like hotbox in the office out here? I was like, listen, I understand no one else is in sobriety here but me, but this is something important to me right now. The owner said, listen, he's, I'm really sorry. It wasn't what you think. And he was, looking like this. And I was like, listen, with all due respect, I quit.
I'm out.
And he's like, I know you. You're not going to walk away from this. You said this was the best job you've ever had up to this date, finance wise. I was like, it's not about that. It's about me being happy. Because if I lose this, I lose everything else. And if I
lose the sobriety, I lose everything else. Exactly. Yes.
Exactly. So I left. I did insurance for a little bit, and I finally got this guy on the phone and said, I want an opportunity. And I started there, and this is where it really changed my life. I started making money that I never thought was really...
This is the first place that you went to do sales that you didn't have experience, and that owner of that business
had another
reaching
company
out to you saying, hey, we'd like the personality. You did good. I got faith in you, and like, brought you back and
you got it.
Wow.
That's exactly. So he brought me back to a different office that did a different type of sale, which was like a moving sale, state to state moving. And I just literally, for the first time, I felt like a sense of freedom. Where I didn't have to rely on like waiting for the next check or, family member helping me out if I was in a tough situation. And it just really was like something like I have so many fears in life, right? And it's like when you walk through something and you get to the other side, you're like, wow, that wasn't as bad as I originally thought type of deal. And I became really good friends with these guys. And in the beginning, for about the first roughly 2 years there, they allowed me to travel out of the country, go anywhere I wanted and work remote as long as I was back for like a half of the month. And usually those times, Riley, when I was out of the office and I'm in my own zone, I don't do good with like a lot of distractions and hearing people or comparing myself on the sales board. I had my best weeks in sales. So
you excelled having having the world as your office rather than being in an office.
Absolutely. That quickly came to a halt, a manager change, a little bit of an office change. And I was back in the office, still did very well. And I just had that freedom to be able to travel when I want it, as long as I was putting up the quota and making the business money.
Do the job well, and be you.
Absolutely.
That's it. And then here's all the benefits and the bonuses, which is go fucking travel.
Absolutely. And this is like where I finally found like peace. And, this to me was like a new bout of sobriety. It was like the beginning of like another good long term of it. And it was just everything I always wanted in life. The relationships with my family were there. The friendships were there. I was there for others. And this is where I really dove in deeper to myself, like spiritually. And a big part of my life right now is routine, right? Like habits. And there's not a morning that goes by anymore that I don't wake up. I start every morning off the same. I get off on my mat. I do a 10-minute meditation. It's a lot of times it's the same one. It's I like guided meditation. I do a prayer right after that. I open up a journal that I write a list of gratitude, and I usually sign it like it's a love letter to God, to who I believe in, God. And I read off a list of affirmations. And then I open a book and I read something positive to be able to learn something new each and every morning. And I find out when I do that without fail, no matter what happens in the day, because as you said, like there's ups and downs in life, right? No matter what, like I know it's going to be okay because I start my day off with a connection. I'm connected to something greater than myself that I have to have faith in, that I want to have faith in, right?
The words you're speaking are nothing but truth. It's a fact of life. I have a very similar routine every day. Awesome. My dog Sushi, who's doing very well, sleeping on the couch right now. I love her. She's over there chilling.
Love that.
We sit outside and have coffee on my patio in my rocking chair, and I have my whole little setup with my Buddhas and my waterfalls and my incense. That's my happy area. That's my reflection time. And gratitude list, prayers. I have a chief aim that I recite.
Awesome.
Any form of meditation. And it's funny what you just said, because last night I went to bed. I got a text from someone, and this particular text created a thought in my head of possible challenge. But I went to bed with a smile and laughter because I was like, but don't I say it all the time to myself. I'm grateful that I'm able to be present and not worry about yesterday and stress less about tomorrow because I have no control over that. I can only enjoy the actual moment that I currently now have. And all of that happens in a real quick second in my brain. And that particular text or whatever, I put to the side, like out of my head. And I was like, dude, God's got you. Follow your routine like you always do. Be happy right now that you're in a bed. You have blankets. You have AC. Your dog's beside you. Go to sleep happy because this moment right now is exactly what you want. And I did. I went to bed happy. I woke up happy, and it was no big deal. It's amazing what, for those of us who believe in such things, that all these routines of gratitude and prayer, meditation, we live by it. We live a happier day because of it.
Absolutely. And that's so well said. And like before I had those routines, I'd wake up like so frazzled. Like, where do I start? Do I run to the bathroom? Do I go get my hot water with lemon? Like, where? I don't know. And now I just know where it starts. I just know what the starting point is.
So let's reverse for a little bit
Sure.
here, because like many of our guests on here that I'm so grateful that they just open up and they show their vulnerability. You also have struggled with substance abuse. And
Absolutely.
this happened at a younger age, I'm presuming.
Yes.
How young?
My first drink didn't come until right before I started freshman year of high school. So whatever age that is, let's call it 13-ish, in that range. And I never had a normal drink, to be honest. So my first time drinking was at a neighborhood friend's house. He had a bottle of Johnny Walker, and I drank half the bottle. The deep end right away. And I drank till the point of vomiting and complete blackout. It was a blackout my very first time. But that point in my life, I was such a shy guy when I was young. I'm completely different now. Like that opened me up in a person that made me feel alive, right? It made me feel a sense of comfort, a sense of ease. And there's nothing more, like I guess a normal person would have woke up the next day like, wow, I'm covered in vomit. I feel like crap. And
probably not do that again.
Let's not do that again. To me, I want it more. Like when and where can we do this again? And I will be there. And that's how it kind of went. And at that age, it was kind of difficult. I didn't have like a late curfew like most of my friends. I wasn't allowed to sleep out of the house too often. But the times I did, I made the most of those hours being able to have some sense of freedom.
And this is kind of what snowballed into the fact that when your parents were going somewhere, you weren't allowed to go because of the way in which you may have acted once you were intoxicated.
Correct.
And it was primarily just the alcohol that you just dove right into for probably a couple of decades.
A good couple of decades.
And what was it? I'm guessing like what was the catalyst that made you look within? Because it's clear as day who you are now sitting right here. You are of the same mindset as I am, and you've done a lot of self-reflection and created a lot of self-love to get you to this point in your life. And even more so to the point where you can tell jobs to go fuck themselves when you realize it's time to bounce, right, much quicker than most. So what was that catalyst that kind of made you realize that, wait a second, this alcohol has had a grip on me for a large period of my life?
That is over a collective period of time, I believe. I don't think there was one exact instance where I felt like, okay, it's time for me to change. It was me getting a DUI back in 2014 and ending up in a holding cell for a DUI. It was me getting discharged from the military for showing up there with alcohol on my person when I was there for, my drill weekend for the Air Force. It was me losing consistent jobs of me just not showing up, me not doing my job properly or being a good employee. It was just me, I can't get out of bed. Let's just forget it. We'll get a new one tomorrow. It was me ruining, friendships over me wanting to drink more as opposed to, hey, it's time to go home. It's me being a different person than who I am today when I'm in a relationship with a female. It was so many things that I feel that made me realize after being outside of that and looking back to who I was, that's like, this is only happening when I'm putting that substance in me, which is alcohol. Like when I'm not using alcohol or drinking alcohol, I show up on time. I'm honest. I'm a good friend. I'm a good boyfriend. I'm a good employee. I know that there's like a night and day difference of the person I am, like the Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde type of effect, right?
And that was your poison.
That was my poison. And every person that's always been in my life, like, listen, it's not like you're a shy person anymore. You need this to be able to talk to somebody or, have a lively conversation. It's just like, you're that person without that. And maybe it was something like simple as that made me realize like, wow, I don't. Maybe that's what I needed when I was younger to feel comfortable or talk to a female or go apply for a job. Like everything I did was always around drinking and alcohol, whether it was a job or a relationship or a friendship. It was always like, all right, is there going to be alcohol there?
It took someone else telling you that you were enough before you realized that you were enough.
Exactly.
Isn't that huge?
Huge. And it's sometimes the simplest things. And it's not usually from someone that's close to me, like a good friend or a family member. It could have been someone that was just like someone that passed through my life for a short time. And those words just like literally stuck with me. And I was able to resonate. And through the daily practices we already talked about, a prayer and meditation, it like shuts off my mind enough. I look at it like meditation is like a defragmentation of your computer, right? It gets all the junk out and you can actually see like what's real and what's not real type of thing. And I was able to sit so clearly and like, wow. Like,
so did you get to sobriety on your own by doing these practices, or did you go to get help?
So my first bout of sobriety was after I got discharged from the Air Force. They said, listen, this is a pretty serious thing, but we'll pay for you to get your first rehab. You have X amount of days to think about it. And I literally took it up to the maximum. I think it was 30 days. And I was like, at day 30, I was like, are you going to take this or not? I was like, I don't know. Should I? Like, this is the stuff that goes on. Like I wanted to protect the alcohol at all costs in my life. Like
the alcohol was more important than your own livelihood.
It was more important than myself, my livelihood, my health, my family, my friends, everything. That was like my number one love in life. And I decided to go to this rehab. And that was right after I got discharged. And I learned a lot there. But self-knowledge, like in the stuff I learned wasn't enough to keep me sober. But every bout through, I was in my early 20s. I probably been to double-digit inpatient rehabilitations in my younger years. Every time I've had the longer bits of sobriety, like the 5 years and the current bout, like I didn't do the rehab thing. I was like, I don't know what I'm physically gonna, learn more, like knowledge wise. Yes, sometimes it's good for someone to step away and get, a safe place for a little bit of time. But I knew this time I just needed to dive in and do everything that I learned over all those decades of being in and out of the rooms of sobriety and those different therapists and the different rehabs I was in. And I put that to practice. And that's like what really worked for me. It's like I had the willingness to do it. I believed that, I had, my God helping me to achieve those things as long as I did the action, right? So if like faith without works is dead. And I really learned that the hard way. And my life started to change very quickly. It wasn't like maybe in a year. It wasn't maybe in a year and a half, 2 years, but like it happened pretty quickly. And, the detox, the physical, the mental comes back, the spiritual starts to come back, and the faith starts to become a big part of my life again.
And all of those things now become a routine into your everyday because you believe wholeheartedly without a shadow of a doubt that with this belief, with this faith, with this understanding, with these practices, I will be able to continue to have more happy days than unhappy days.
Well said. Absolutely. Absolutely the case. And fast forwarding a little bit, I had a little slip up not too long ago. It was a two-day bout of drinking alcohol. And in that 2-day bout, I missed a whole week of work after vacationing for few weeks. And I remember the owner of the business, I said there, he said, listen, a normal drinker doesn't go out, miss work the next day and request to take a whole week off. And once again, I realized like, this is who I would become again if I go back into that life. And after 2 days, it was all I needed. And I said, listen, I need this week off, not to mess around, but I need this week off to recenter myself. And
is this owner also?
He's a sober man as well.
He's been in the program.
Absolutely.
Makes total sense why he's so supportive and was like so willing to reach out to you to get you back to work with him. And he understands what you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Because it's an everyday challenge, regardless how long you've been sober for.
That's right. It really is an everyday challenge, whether I have 5 years, 3 years, or just about a month and a half back right now. Like it's an everyday challenge. Like I'm going to wake up with untreated alcoholism and I got to do my part to get centered and to stay sober for that day. There was just a meeting I was in a few days ago and there was a gentleman, he had about 37 years and he said he was driving down here from New York. And on the way down, he, started having thoughts of drinking, but he said, I got 37 years sober. What is this to me? And they went to the Airbnb they were renting down here in South Florida. And he opened up the refrigerator and there was a couple bottles of alcohol in there. And he said he fantasized it and it grew and it grew. And his wife went to the bathroom to take a shower. And he's like, I know I have 20 minutes. I can just drink a full cup. And at that time, he's like, I should probably make a call, but he didn't out of pride of having all this time. He didn't pick up the drink, thank God. His sponsor who has 50 something years, called him. He said, hey, I'm really struggling. I just left a restaurant on Delray.
His sponsor called him
out of the blue at this exact moment. He has 50 something years. He said, I just left a restaurant on Atlantic Avenue in Delray. And after they left, I was about to run back in. The thought of a drink came in so strong. And I knew what I had to do. I have to use the tools. And I'm calling you to talk so I don't have to go back into that way of life after 50 something years of sobriety. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is like an everyday practice.
It's going to be, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because it has consumed so much of your being,
absolutely,
your internal being, that for the rest of your life, you have to have that thought process. And amazingly, hopefully you have a sponsor, you have someone that you can call at any time of day.
Yes.
Because I've not ever gone into the program. I've admitted the alcoholism that I had dealt with for 7 years while being here in Florida. I would go out to drink, not to have a social drink. I would go out to drink so I could be drunk, so I can go home and pass out without thinking. Absolutely. I didn't want to deal with what was inside my head. And I was able to get to the point where I drink once in a blue moon right now.
Right.
And I'm fortunate that I say I have control over it because I can choose when I go out and when I don't go out, which I basically just don't go out. But when I go out and have a drink, it's very rare that it's a drink. It's usually like 3 drinks while my friend has 1.
Correct.
And then when that happens, like, it's just, I don't want the night to end. I just keep ordering, Now I don't get out of hand or whatever, but I know exactly it'll just transpire into the next day being shitty.
Correct.
So I've chosen not to. The fact that you're in the program and you have someone that you can call at any time of day is probably the most important thing, I would believe.
Without a doubt. It's that connectivity with the people in the fellowship for me. And the sponsor I have now has me calling like 4 other guys a day on top of him. So he's like, if I don't answer, you have the comfortability of being able to talk to someone else. And one out of those people is going to call you back or text you back, hey, is everything okay? And I'm finding that's like one of the biggest things for me is just staying connected. You know, I still have friends that, go out and have drinks, but I try to stay away from the ones that are going out and drink like I do. Right. And for me, that's been working. And the same thing is like, far as like when I travel, like I try to still make those calls. I make sure I still bring my practices with me. Like I still wake up and I still do my prayer, my meditation, or my exercise or walking. And that's what kind of stopped towards the end of that last bout. And I picked up a drink on the most amateur night of the year on New Year's Eve out of the country this past December. And I didn't get like toasted like I wanted to because I was in the girl I've been dating's mother's home. in Colombia. But I came back to work after being off for about 3 weeks. And this was a Tuesday, January 2nd. And I put a sale up. I was like, all right, this is going to be nice and easy to jump back into, right? And after that day ended, I had no thought of a drink that entire day. After that day ended, I walked out the front door, jumped into my car, and the obsession came in so strong, didn't think twice, didn't call anybody. I drove right to a bar where I knew that was going to be open all night. I knew it was going to be no one that I knew. And I knew there was going to be people in that bar that drank just like I wanted to. And I stayed there till it closed. Even an hour and a half after it closed, drinking one or two drinks, and maybe I had one in each hand. And the sun was starting to come up. And I drove back home. And the one thing I learned through all my experiences is be honest. And I wasn't being honest like what I just did to myself, but I did want to be honest with my employer. And I texted him right away. I said, listen, I'm going to be honest. He's like, wow, I can't believe you're even telling on yourself. It's been 2 days. He's like, call me when you wake up. And we made a plan. And I took action. Like it was short, but it still messed my head up. For the first 2 weeks back, like sales came pretty natural to me. I couldn't close a barn door if I tried. Like it was just, it was just like such a struggle. He's like, good. It should be a struggle. You should need to work a little harder than normal. And I didn't make any money for those next 2 weeks. And now everything's starting to get back to normal again. Thank goodness. But it was just like a good kick in the butt. And what that did to me, I don't think that's necessary or needed for anyone, but like that got me back into another gear, which I think I was just kind of coasting into, if that makes sense, right? Like I think
you're falling back into the comfort zone.
Yes.
And the comfort zone, unfortunately, when you're in it, tends to be a downward spiral sometimes.
Big time. And I started getting back into in-person meetings as opposed to just like online, like Zoom meetings. And I'm seeing how important that is because the connection with other people isn't necessarily there on the in-person meetings. It's easy for me to have that phone like in my hand, wash the dishes, do something around the house where I'm not like 100% engaged in the actual meeting. In the meeting, I make sure my phone is always down. I'm paying attention. I usually like to sit close up front in the room. Maybe there's one meeting a week I don't. It's just so packed. But other than that, like I'm engaged, raising my hand, I'm sharing where I'm at, and I'm comfortable with that this time. Like I know who I am, and that's like one thing I think that keeps not only myself but a lot of like people with addictions out is like in my head. Like I remember after I lost that 5 years of sobriety, I had such a big ego. Like all I could think about was that number, like 5 years. Like, what are they going to think of me coming in? And you know what the response was after I did come back? Like, wow, like so happy to see you again. Stay, take my number, call me. Showed me nothing but love.
Because you're not the first person to go a long period of time in sobriety and falter.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, you're still a human being.
Correct.
Like we said, challenges will be coming at your doorstep. This is what I say. The better you do in life, the harder life comes at you. So the more accolades that you get, the better you do at work, the better you do in your relationships. There's something about the universe that's going to, for some reason, almost test you. And hardships and challenges are going to come at your door and be fucking banging down that door. And it's on your shoulders to look within yourself to see how you're going to react to those new challenges.
Yes.
Because life's not always going to be up here. And the carpet can get pulled out from underneath you in a second.
I love that you just said that, and I could really relate to that. I think the unhappiness per se that started this last bout, and this is just a piece of it. I just wasn't happy 100% where I was working at for the majority of that time. And I was just sitting there and I was like, I just think not necessarily unhappy, but I was ready for something new. And I didn't talk about this to anybody, my sponsor, my friends, my family. I kept this all inside. And I let that sit for a while to the point where everyone around me is like, yo, your energy is off. Like you come in with a smile on your face and you just always have, a good personality, good energy. Like you don't sound good on the phone. You're not bringing off a good vibe. Like what's going on? And I just held it in. I just couldn't get it out. And I let this go until August of last year, way longer than I should have. And I took a leap of faith and I went to a new company. It's a newer company. I know a lot of the guys from my previous job. They're all sober as well. And this was something I had fear about. Change, right? Change. Like you get so comfortable. What is this change going to bring? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Am I going to still make the same kind of money I did? And I went there and I hit the ground running. I did really, really well. and I kind of gave up on the gas pedal. And I don't know what happened. Like, I think it came so quick, and I was like, wow, what was I really thinking about? But I let myself get so down, like almost like to a slight depression almost. Like, I just couldn't pop myself back out of it without making a change of like getting to meetings or helping someone else or doing something positive. I just let everything go. One of my biggest addictions above the alcohol is women. That kind of came inherited from my father, right? That was his thing, and never a chemical, but that's my number one, and the alcohol is easily the number two. I'm a sensitive guy, right? Like, I learned through my sobriety, like I'm a sensitive guy, and I'm okay and comfortable.
There's nothing
saying
wrong
that.
with it. Absolutely.
I always thought that wasn't like a manly thing when I was young.
It's unfortunately a stereotype for us men is that you're not allowed to be sensitive, but I say, fuck that shit.
Amen.
You can be the strongest men, the stronger men are sensitive.
Absolutely.
And they can share it.
Well said. And that's who I really became. And that's pretty much like an open book with a lot of people that I feel comfortable with.
Well, that's what it comes down to. If you feel unthreatened, it's much easier to then divulge the information that people would be happy to receive.
Correct. Things that I feel are most important for a relationship, number one, communication. Like, for me, without communication or being able to show someone who I am by talking about my day, having descriptive words to talk about like how things are going, not just like, hey, my day was good, or hey, I got a sale today, or like, it was bad, I'm going to go take a nap, or I'm going to get like a little bit more than that is what I need.
My belief is that the benefit of having someone in your life that's you're intimate with both mentally and physically is the fact that you can be your true self around them, right? That's probably the most important thing, is being able to be you when you're around that person, and to communicate with them at the end of the day, which is to explain to them the highs and the lows that you went through in that given day, and for them to honestly give you the feeling that they're really paying attention and listening. And then they get to take their turn and express to you how their day went, and you do the same thing for them. You genuinely look at them while you're talking, or if you're on the phone, you're just authentically listening to them, because it's not just the talking you're doing, but it's how you listen and understand what they're going through. Like you said earlier in the discussion, it's one thing to say things, but it's your actions that speak louder. If you're in a situation where trust has been lost or taken away from either side in the relationship, and you're both wanting or willing to continue on in the relationship, then your actions have to prove that it's worth it. Conversely, in that situation, if your actions are proving that, the other person's eventually going to have to let the guard down and allow you to have that trust back.
Absolutely. And that hasn't really transpired. The jealousy thing has been a big part of it. And it's just like, okay, like, I understand you're jealous. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. But like, that's not who I am anymore today. Like, I'm showing you
it's a hard thing for anybody. Once that action has been placed, it's nearly impossible for the other person to totally get that thought out of their mind. And for me, because I've been on both sides of the fence, unfortunately, in my 20s, definitely slept around on the girl that I was dating. And later on in my life, it, then happened to me. And I just know from my own experience, I'm a person now where it's like the strings are cut. That's like one thing, like I can't get back, because I know my brain, I won't be able to get back to a point where I can go to sleep not worrying that you're out with your girls. If you had cheated on me and we continue to date. So I just say, nah, I'm good, because I don't want that emotion or that feeling in my head ever anymore in my life. I'm not saying that you guys need to end it. I'm just saying, like, if unfortunately you had that action of sleeping with someone else and she can't get past it, that's pretty much a speed bump you're going to have the entire relationship.
And I agree with that. And I also have been on the receiving end of both of those sides as well. And I know the woman I was in before that, she was the one that was unfaithful at first, and I just couldn't get out of my head. And I just turned into a maniac almost, as far as.
And very dangerous for you because of the fact that you've been in and out of the program.
Correct.
I could be wrong, but
Right.
when serious situations happen in life where it is a broke of trust, or I feel like those negative energies that are thrown at you in those situations would be a direct catapult to possibly you losing your sobriety.
Correct.
So you almost have to be more diligent to block those energies from coming in.
That's so well said. And I'm very careful who I let in my life. If I see like a red flag, kind of like the job example you said, I kind of am able to go away. That particular person, I saw it, and I realized after a certain amount of time, like, this just isn't going to work anymore. I can't get out of my head. Every time you say you're going out and you're back at 5 a.m., I just think the worst. And
oh, dude, the things that I've done in my life, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the unfortunate thing of living the life that I have is I know what I've done at I know what I've done before walking in at 5 in the morning. I know what I've done before walking in at 1 in the morning and you're already sleeping because I did it. So therefore, I'm aware of what humans are capable of doing.
yes,
And that's in my fucking head. So that's why, since I made the decision to look within inside myself and create a better me and become the best version of me, I've chosen not to do those things ever again.
awesome.
More importantly, because it harms me as an individual. And then on top of that, I don't want to be the reason why someone else is harmed.
Absolutely. Without action, the words don't mean anything anymore. Without me showing you action. So sometimes, like, just to get faith and trust back in her, her to have faith and trust back in me, I should say. When I go out with my friends, I'll take a picture. Like, hey, I'm with my buddy Matt.
It takes zero effort to put a person's mind at ease.
Correct.
It like, especially with nowadays with all the technology we have. I mean, listen, I basically every night, if I'm with somebody, every night I get home, I talk to them while I'm in bed.
Yes.
And I'm not afraid to do video chat. You know what I'm saying? Like when Tim says, oh no, it's just not good right now. It's like, no, that's because you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Exactly.
Because if you're doing what you should be doing, there's no reason why. And listen, I'm not like, you got to show me a video every single time. Let me know exactly when you walk. No, fuck that shit. But one just knows if you're willing to send a text, say, hey babe, listen, I worked a bit longer than I wanted to tonight. And a buddy of mine came by and he wants to go for a quick drink. I'm going to go for like 2 drink. Like I'm using it as an example. You're not going for a drink, but this is what I would do. And then if I'm in the bar and I notice that, okay, fuck, it's coming up on that hour that I said I would call, hey babe, I'll be 20 more minutes. And then as soon as I'm walking to the car, or the Uber or whatever, it would be like, hey babe, like, it's just like, just giving them the information. Like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. It's not, you're not having to do it because you are checking in.
Right.
You're doing it because you want to make sure that the other person feels good and safe. And that's a big, big thing that people don't quite understand when they're in a relationship. That's
so true. And I like the way you worded that as well. Like the first woman I was in the relationship with, she said, what are you, like, acting like my father or my mother? They never even did this to me. Like, I was like, no, it's not about that. It's just about me having trust. Like, hey, tell me you got home okay.
I want to know you're safe. Correct. I mean, don't get me wrong. In my 20s, I wanted to fucking know if you had another dick in you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
100%. Because I know what I was doing. But as I've gotten older and more mature and learned about myself, now I know what people do. Unfortunately, I have gotten behind the wheel when I had a bit of drink. Luckily, knock on wood, I've never harmed anybody.
Absolutely.
I've gotten into the vehicle when my friend has been drinking and I'm completely hammered. And the last thing I think is, it's probably safer to get in an Uber. I've done these things. So if I'm dating you and I care about you, I absolutely want to know that you made it home safe. And on top of that, and don't take this the wrong way, women, but if I'm dating a woman, I'm going to be a little more worried.
Correct.
Because shit can happen even in a fucking Uber, a taxi. And I just don't want to get that phone call. I'd rather get the phone call. Hey babe, I'm in an Uber right now. Do you mind staying on the phone with me? It's a 5-minute drive. Fuck yeah.
Correct.
Like no problem.
And that just hit me really actually kind of hard. Cause one of the last, couple months I was with the first girlfriend in Colombia. She had something like that happen in an Uber coming home at 4:30, 5 a.m. And she had to run out, and thank God she was able to find safety. But she's like, it was going to be bad. And I was like, well, this is the reason I said, call me. Like, I have some connections out there. I have some friends that maybe would go pick you up, someone that I could trust. Like, it's not so that I'm checking on you. Don't want you to enjoy yourself.
Well, my thought on it is if anyone is ever, and there's always exceptions to the rule. However, if someone is taking the defensive action to the conversation of, you're like my dad, I didn't get in this relationship to have to check into somebody. Well, then telling me you're doing something you shouldn't.
Exactly.
That's the way I look at it.
That's 100% right.
Because when I have expressed that to an individual before all of this technology was around and I was in my 20s and the poor girl just wanted to know what I was doing.
Right.
And I was doing something I shouldn't. I'd be like, listen, I don't need to date someone that's going to be up my ass all the time. Because that's just like a psychology know how, I think.
Yes.
You deflect
Yep.
and put it back on them.
Exactly. Deflect it off me, put it back on you. I'm going to turn this whole the whole thing around. It's your fault, not mine, type of thing, and just
I mean, the big thing is the communication. Without a doubt, I think we can all agree across the board. Communication is key, but communication once you've become a mature adult.
Exactly. And this woman was a little bit younger in age than I was. This one I'm dating now is a little bit closer in age, so there's a little bit more things in common. But the communication with the first one was way better, in my opinion, than the one currently. And I think the next big, like really big thing is like working towards something together. Like if you really want to move here and start another chapter of your life with me, whether that's engaged or being married, like what is your plan? Like what is your goal? And that
what do you want 5 years from now?
Right. And that has never been answered. There's never been one single answer. Would you want to go to school? Would you?
Well, what you're saying is this is so important. You have to know the person, like who they actually are, before even thinking about starting that journey of your life.
Right.
And I liked how you said that, because I've been in that train of thought lately for the past 2 months, 46 years of age. And, you know, people still, when they meet up with me, are like, I had a friend come by the other day to catch up. I haven't seen each other in probably like 2 or 3 years.
Cool.
And the question was, do you still ever like want to have a kid? And I'm like, 100 million, billion, trillion times, yes, I would love to have a couple children,
Absolutely.
So the thought of starting that journey, which there's been so many men in that chair that have expressed to me what it's like to be a father, whether it was planned or not, being ready or not. Most of them say not ready. I want to know what that's about, not just for the novelty of knowing. I literally do want to know, now that I know what happiness is, like truly loving myself and truly understanding how to hold on to that feeling of happiness. I can't even imagine right now, because I don't have a kid, what that level of happiness would be. And to do it with a partner that loves you and supports you the same level, and you both together talk about things that you want to accomplish in the future, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. Like, I'm all in on that 100%. I want to try and learn what that adventure is going to be like. My journey, all my chapters leading up to this point right now, I'm ready for the bigger book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you just touched on a big one for me. Like that's like one of the subjects there that I feel that she wants more than anything. She wants a family. She wants a kid. She wants marriage. And my biggest holdback with that, my whole life as well, I always wanted to experience that. Like now at 42 years of age, just a little bit behind you, I don't have a kid. I never been married. And most of the friends I have down here all have children. And they all say the same thing. One in particular, this one kid, I've been a part of his life since he was born. I was there almost as like a fatherly role in the beginning, and now more so as like a role model, godfather type of
like
role.
A fun uncle.
Exactly. And she's like, you would be an amazing father, and I truly, truly believe that. But I can't get to my senses to be able to answer that with the woman I'm currently in and say, yeah, I would love to have a kid with you. And I've never said those words to her, because I don't 100% trust like what the future holds.
I mean, and I don't know if she'll ever see this or if you'll even let her see it. It's not going to be posted for like 9 weeks from the day we recorded.
Awesome.
But from what you're telling me, this isn't the person you're gonna end up having a marriage and a forever family with. There's too much that is being withheld or not communicated, or the trust that has been broken from your side. It's just that there are too many things to overcome. Correct. And I'm not saying people can't overcome things, but those are pretty drastic things. If you've been with someone for 2 years and you feel like your gut is telling you that the communication isn't at the level that you want, I'm going to say it's probably not going to get there if it's taking you 2 years and you know that. If whatever had happened and your actions have, you can only answer this if you actually know and believe that your actions have been showing that the trust is worth receiving back, and it's not. Again, just like, and this is like, I was so proud to hear you say this, because a lot of people are not that type of human. When the person came to you and basically threatened you by saying, if you use all your vacation time that's owed to you, you're going to be fired. You did the best thing that anyone can do, is quit right there in that moment, because you knew your value.
Correct.
And that person, if it's the person I think it was, kind of bald headed.
Yep.
Yeah, he can go fuck himself.
Absolutely.
No,
Amen.
he was a complete fucking dickhead.
Not a fan
I'll
of
tell
him
you
at
a
all.
story afterwards.
Please.
And
love that.
anyhow, you have so many unbelievably strong qualities about you, even though you have gone through such adversity with alcoholism.
Thank you.
And I'll commend you on that, because not many people, well, more people are afraid to go get help than those who do, which is an astonishing thing to say, because you've gone to meetings, how many people go and get help.
Absolutely.
And think about how many more people out there that need the help. So you've overcome things time and time again. You're not a perfect human. You're back on sobriety again. You know how to communicate. You have a love for so many things in your life that you have made sure are a part of your life. Travel, food, meditation, gratitude, prayer. So you have things really collectively coming together for yourself. And you can see that because where you were as a teenager and where you are now as a grown adult at 42 years of age is leaps and bounds different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you should know going forward from here where to go and what not to do when it comes to relationships and people that you let into your life, and how you can successfully live good today.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you saying that. And I think that the biggest stumbling block, or the biggest roadblock rather is a better way to say that, with her is I see so much good. She was supportive. She doesn't understand anything about sobriety. She's got kind of a different awkward type of personality, like where I might say something and you're going to laugh because it was funny. Like I'll say something like, I had the worst day at work today. Like I didn't get any sales. I just want to go, and she'll laugh. I'm like, why was that funny? This is all on video call. We don't ever talk on regular call. So it's all able to visually see what she's doing, her actions, her
Body
reactions,
language.
body language. And it's like that every time. It's been like that for 2 years. And I've been seeing therapists over this recently, and I think it's helped me a lot. And they pretty much said the same thing as you. I don't think this is something that's going to be long-term, but if you want to stick it out a little bit more, but just make sure you don't put yourself in a situation that's going to take you back out by putting too much effort. So a lot of times, like I have a little bit of codependency. So on my family side, addiction runs throughout. My mother's more of a codependent. My father, his thing was like woman. And then on both sides of my family, I have cousins, one that passed away from, a drunk driving accident back in 2003. And the other side, they're both in active addiction currently in their 50s. And it's just so many consequences. But I think I have a little bit of the codependency where I give some people, not a lot. So a lot of times I'll cut it very quickly, and that's how I've always been. But this particular person, I see so much potential and so much good in her. But how much more time can I give it after 2 years?
But your therapists are saying it like, you already have the answer that you need.
I do. You're right.
You have to rip the Band-Aid off.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're going to lose parts of you that take you a long time to get back. Jeffrey, thank you so very much. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. Such an amazing conversation we just had, and I'm so grateful that we reconnected. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Awesome. To all my lifers out there, thank you very much for coming back each and every week here. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. on the Lyfe Choyces podcast. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You are now about
The Journey, Life Choices podcast.